episode of the Moving Markets Podcast. I'm Jeffrey Dunyan, the CEO and founder of Safe Option Strategies. Glad to have you here. It is Wednesday, the 21st of February, 2024. U.S. stock market has only been closed for about 20 minutes. Before I go any farther with this presentation, let me quickly apologize. If you tried to get online and listen to the podcast yesterday, you got a brief little introduction from myself, and then you got to watch some slides if you were watching on video. If you were listening, you got absolutely nothing. I did not know until very late last night that we had issues with our sound and that we lost sound just 40 seconds into the presentation or so. I believe we've got that corrected. I ran a couple of tests. I am traveling this week, so I'm away from my office where I've got my good sound equipment, my good microphone. And to say it's frustrating doesn't even really cover things, but I do apologize. So before we post this online, I got a little hasty with posting it online as well. Before we post this online today, I'll go through some things and make absolutely certain that we have a good recording that includes audio throughout. So if you're listening to this part of it and you can hear this part of it, hopefully you're going to hear the rest of it without any issues as well. All right. So Dow and the NASDAQ were up a little bit today. Or excuse me, I'm sorry. Dow and the S&P were up a little bit today. The NASDAQ was down. The NASDAQ down largely on the backs of Meta, NVIDIA for absolute sure, AMD. They all had rough days today. I'm going to come maybe back to this slide that I've got right here and jump ahead a little bit. I'll come back to those other two parts of the presentation, but I'm going to jump over here. Now, I don't have the ability to draw any lines on the screen today. That's one of the switches I had to do with my audio. It had to do with trying to record some PowerPoint slides and not having that go my way. So I'm not going to be able to draw on the screen. But as you can see, the Dow Jones finished up 48 points, S&P up 6.3 approximately, and the NASDAQ down almost 50 points. 13 tenths or 13 100% to the upside for the Dow and the S&P, not much. The most interesting thing about the move up on both the Dow and the S&P is how much of it came right at the end of the day. If you look at this, if you're looking at this on the video, if you're listening to this, what I've got is a one-day chart of the Dow Jones Industrial Average up. And on this one-day chart, you would be able to see that for the majority of the day, from the time the market opened, right at 9:30 Eastern time, the Dow fell. It came back up a little bit, but stayed mostly in negative territory through the entirety of the day. And then, not way down, not crazy sell off. I think at one point in time, the Dow might have gotten down about 170, 180 points. But then with a little more than 30 minutes, let's call it about 40 minutes left in the trading session, it got on a run and it just kept going up. And it didn't just go up and and by the way, that 40 minutes left of trading was when it was at its lowest point of the day. And then sure enough, it caught some momentum. It started moving to the upside. And once it started moving up, it just plain and simply didn't stop and went all the way into positive territory. Same thing with the S&P, um, right at about 40 minutes left for the market close. It was at its deepest point of the day. It got on a roll and it just didn't stop. It just kept going up. Kind of a crazy, situation. I wasn't watching the market. I wasn't sitting right in front of the market at that time. So I did not see what caused it to go up. I didn't see what was happening. I might do a little more research on that and take a peek and see what the cause was, but it was an interesting day. Um, we've talked several times about the fact that there's a little bit of a lack of news driving things this week. That doesn't mean there aren't things that will drive the markets. It means some of the bigger economic reports that we come to rely on for big movements in the market are absent this week. The one exception to that might have been the Fed notes, the FOMC notes from the last meeting. They definitely expressed some caution about how soon they lower interest rates. Back in December, Jerome Powell basically said that 2024 would probably see 75 basis points. And there was an assumption made that that would come two or three rate cuts, maybe a 50 basis point cut and a 25 basis point cut, or three 25 basis point cuts. It was all speculation and all market supposition that started this narrative of possibly getting six rate cuts this year. I listened to Liz Clayman a lot in the closing hour of the market. I just don't like the program that runs simultaneously on another news channel. So I oftentimes listen to Liz Clayman. I don't hear Liz Clayman. She's very good with her guests. She's very complimentary to them. Sometimes I wish she would push back a little bit more on something that an individual says that is so nonsensical that a 5-year-old that barely knows his numbers, let alone pays attention to the market, would be able to refute and say that's nonsense and BS. But today she did push back. She had a guest on at the very end of her program who was talking about probably three rate cuts this year, probably no more than that, and he was almost trying to justify why it would not be more than that. And Liz pushed back, and I was proud of her for doing so. She pushed back and she said, um, with the sticky, persistent inflation, the numbers we got in the CPI and the PPI last week, she wouldn't have been shocked if we end up with only one rate this year. So, and that's the first time I've heard a big name, talking head on TV say that we may end up only getting one rate cut this year. I'm kind of in that camp. I think one, maybe two this year. And I'm not even 100% certain on that because if we get another month, the CPI data and the PPI data creeping back up, you're not going to have a rate cut this year. I just don't think it'll happen. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. But for those members of Safe Option Strategies, the Walmart trade that we set up yesterday for this morning's open did not fill. We were very aggressive with our strike price, and I was frustrated because I did watch about the first um, maybe 45 minutes to an hour worth of trading this morning. And several times the mid price on this spread got down below the limit debit order that I have in place to get in, and I hope you have in place to get in. My order did not fill, and by the end of the day, the mid price was, 460, 465. I mean, had we been filled at 415, we'd have gotten out today for 12, 13% profit just right out of the gate. I'm going to try the same trade tomorrow. I know that might sound a little bit strange, but I think there's a chance that in the opening little bit of trading, you may see the same thing happen this morning. You may see the stock flat or neutral, or maybe even up a tiny bit, and you're going to see those option prices change at a different rate. And I think it's worth giving it another shot. If we don't get filled tomorrow on this Walmart spread, I will put out something different, or I will have a couple of new trades on Monday instead of just one new trade on Monday, so that we're still averaging the one a week. But I am going to try one more time in Walmart trade tomorrow to get in. Uh, I'm still going to put that limit order at 415. I'm going to be a little bit stubborn. I think the mid price will go down to that point, and I think that we got a good chance of getting filled there. So, bonus for those people that are not members of Safe Option Strategies. If you want to copy us on one of the trades that we do and get a little freebie here, here's your opportunity. We're gonna try and place this trade again tomorrow. All right. Here's the big news. And I know I can't highlight this or circle this, but for those of you that are only listening, it's okay. NVIDIA, I believe, is reporting their numbers. They're supposed to have their actual conference call um, starting in about 30 minutes from right now. But they have obviously released the numbers because this thing is not just up, it is up pretty big after the market. I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit and see. They had a big sell off today. And that's the second day, third day in a row that they've had some sell off. Let's see if we've got anything breaking like in the last. I don't see the actual numbers yet. This could be a little bit of jostling around prior to the conference call, but we'll be talking a lot more about NVIDIA tomorrow. But as you can see right here, it lost $19 today. It lost $31 yesterday. And by the way, it was way lower than this earlier in the day. It was down quite a bit more than that. But after market now, they're up $42 and some change on my streaming platform on another computer screen. I saw them up about 39, $40 and some change. I don't know if that's based on the release of the numbers or if that's speculation, but they're still about a half an hour away from the conference call. So we're going to talk a lot more about NVIDIA tomorrow, and I'm not going to worry overly about what they're doing right now. We'll see how they end up trading tomorrow. They are the big story. They're the big story, and they're going to determine whether I believe NVIDIA is going to single-handedly determine whether this week finishes to the upside or the downside. I was a little bit surprised by the movement up today, um, especially where the markets, the Dow and the S&P were down for most of the day. I was surprised at that rally in the last 30 minutes and how they went bullish. I'm not sure if they could pull that off a second day in a row, but if NVIDIA uh, does as well tomorrow as what some extended hour trading is already suggesting, it's not going to matter. It puts the whole market up, not just the Nasdaq, not just the S&P. The Dow's going to come along with it because you're going to see the likes of Microsoft go to the upside. You're going to see Apple probably benefit and go to the upside. Those are a couple of our Dow stocks. Some other Dow stocks that could benefit from a move up in Nvidia. Um, you got to put J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs in there because they both have huge holdings of Nvidia. Intel, IBM could see big updates tomorrow. Those are Dow components that could see big updates tomorrow with a good numbers. I think I mentioned Microsoft already. Cisco could benefit from that. There's a lot of companies that have some spillover or could experience some positive spillover from Nvidia having a big move. So it'll be fun to watch. It's about $43 a share right now with about 25 minutes until their conference call. So I'm going to wrap it up right there. Again, I apologize for the mess up on the yesterday. Try that Walmart trade again tomorrow. Uh, we'll talk a little bit more about Nvidia and what they do as we go into tomorrow's podcast. Tomorrow, I'll give you a heads up right now, a little bit of a warning. I'm going to be on the road tomorrow, not just away from my office, but actually traveling back towards my office tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to do the podcast until fairly late in the evening. It's probably going to be 13 o'clock Eastern time. Around 8 o'clock my time is when I'll most likely be able to do that. So I will get a podcast drop tomorrow late. Um, don't expect it within an hour or two after the market closes, which is what I usually try and do. All right. Thanks, everybody. Hope you had a great Wednesday. Hope you have a great rest of the week. Bye.